Hello, my name is Tadala Hamisi from the Department of HIV and AIDS, Ministry of Health, Malawi. My topic today is transition to dolutegravir-based regimens improves overall viral load suppression in the national cohort in Malawi and closes the gender gap. Malawi is a country in Southeast Africa with a population of 19 million, and it's estimated that 1.1 million of these people are living with HIV and AIDS. 49% are women and a third are men aged 25 and above. The prevalence of HIV in adults 15 and above is 9.5%, with the highest burden being in the southern district of the country. In 2019, the new infections for HIV were 33,000. There's high ART coverage in Malawi, with 87% of the HIV population being on ART, and this is partially due to the introduction of option B+ in 2011, which offers high coverage among women, as well as test and treat protocol in 2016. However, one of the challenges that we have is the lower coverage and viral load suppression rates among children and adolescents. On the right, this is an illustration of the progress towards 95, 95, 95 targets, with 90, 87, and 93%. 93% of viral load suppressed. In December 2019, before transitioning to DTG, 97% of the first-line clients were on TLE 600 milligrams, and the pediatrics were on nevirapine-based regimens. Around 89% of the cohort had viral load suppression, and there was a study done in 2015 in Lilongwe, Malawi, by Newhan and colleagues, which showed that there was NNRTI pre-treatment drug resistance, which had a prevalence of 14%. This could suggest that the higher prevalence was lowering the viral load suppression rates in the country. Throughout the past 5 years, we have seen that there's been a low viral load suppression rate in boys, ranging from 5 to 12%. Although transition from TLE to TLD started in January 2019 in Malawi, the transition was slow due to the fact that there was a WHO caution of neurotube defects in women of childbearing age. The women later started transitioning after there was clearance to use DTG for all. It should be noted that 80% of the viral load samples were collected via dried blood spot. Children 20 to 30 kgs have been transitioning to ABC, 3TC, DTG, whereas children below the age of 20 kgs have been transitioning to lopinavir, ritonavir granules. This slide illustrates the viral load suppression rates before and after DTG transition, with the lighter colors showing the pre-transition stage and the darker colors showing the post-transition stage. I'd like to take your attention to the fact that the cohort is a national cohort, with the females going over just about 500,000 for the period that we have stated, which is a period of 2 years from April 2018 to March 2020, and for the males, there are 145,000 in April 2019 to March 2020. The age, on the x-axis, we have the age ranging from 0 to 65 and above, and the y-axis, we have the viral load suppression rate in percentage, starting from 40%. As you can see, the women have had consistently higher viral load suppression rate throughout the 2 years. However, I'll bring your attention to the 15 to 19 cohort, which has had the highest improvement in the males, with just about 64% before the transition and close to 80% after the transition. In the women's cohort, there hasn't been much of a difference, and I'd like to point out for the age group 40 to 65 and above has consistently been high for viral load suppression rate, with all of them ranging from 90% to 95%. This slide takes us through the long-term trends in viral load suppression from the year 2015 to 2020, and once again it's from the National Lab Information Management System, with a large cohort with women at 852,000 and samples for men at 408,000. Children have the lowest sample with 90,000. This slide illustrates that we have consistently had a gender gap for viral load suppression rates before males and women. The pink is for the women and the blue is for the men. The gap closed as soon as we introduced dolutegravir-based regimens in 2019. For the children, we've consistently had low viral load suppression rates, and the variability in the viral load suppression results is due to the small sample size. However, I would like to bring to your attention the fact that the viral load suppression rates have been increasing from 2019 Q2. The viral load suppression rates remain consistently low in children, and we hope that the dolutegravir 10 mg dispersible tablet will be a game changer for this cohort. This also illustrates the same trend in adolescents as well as in young women and men. Once again, it's from 2015 to 2020 for both of the charts, and the viral load suppression rate is from 40% to 100%. I'd like to bring to your attention the fact that there's been a huge increase in the boys who are aged 15 to 19 years. By December 2019, close to 71% of the first-line cohort had transitioned to TOD, whereas the rest were still on TOE. This slide shows you the regimen distribution in Q4 2018 versus Q4 2019, with a cohort of over 800,000 in both of the years. And as you can see, the for TOE, there were 86% who were on this regimen in Q4 2018, and a year later, 66% had transitioned to Dtg TOD. The lessons that we've learned is that the National Lab Information Systems data suggests that there's an early increase in viral load suppression following transition to dolutegravir, and the greatest was within the males, who started an earlier transition than the females. Our interpretation, there are three of them, is that there's a possible undiagnosed treatment failure that was present before Dtg was introduced. Secondly, there might be improved adherence to TOD among patients who were previously experiencing high toxicity in efavirenz. And lastly, there's a higher potency of Dtg among patients who miss occasional doses, therefore encouraging higher viral load suppression rates. With males, why are we consistently seeing the lower viral load suppression rate? We have two theories, and one is that there's a possible biological effect of male having lower CD4 set point when starting ART, and this was alluded to in a paper that was done in Zambia, as shown below. And the second one is that there's generally lower adherence in males. We anticipate that the gender gap may re-emerge as more women transition to TLD. In conclusion, we have noticed that TOD has opened the door for Malawi to reach 95-95-95 target, and that continued viral load monitoring and genotyping is required for us to be able to detect any emerging integrase inhibitor resistance. As a program, we're working on analysis of viral load suppression rate by regimen through the National Lab Information Management System. And finally, we look forward to the Dtg 10 mg dispersible tablet for the pediatrics, as this offers a glimmer of hope for higher viral load suppression rates in this cohort. Thank you for your attention, and for any questions, please feel free to email me.